Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2024 release, All You Need Is Blood, and I haven't really heard much of anything from people on this one, like nothing online, no one's talking about this film really. I found out that it had been released. It sounded like an interesting concept to me. I got it through Fandango at home, did a rental with that, $6.35 with tax, so I think it's definitely worth giving a shot. I ended up quite liking this film, but I'll give you this no spoiler review and kind of tell you what I did like, what I didn't necessarily like. But let's get into it. This one's written and directed by Bucky Boeuf and Cooper Roberts. First feature film for both these individuals. This has Mina Suvari in it, for anyone who remembers her from things like American Pie and American Pie. She's done other stuff, but you know, that's what I mainly know her from my childhood, or my teen years, really. And then Eddie Griffin is in it. And I have to say, I like this film overall. I like the performances in it. Eddie Griffin was my favorite. He actually kind of seems like he was just playing a derivation of his character in Deuce Bigelow Male Gigolo, which I happen to like. It's a fun movie. But anyway, getting the synopsis of this one. So it's basically about a film nerd. This is set in the 90s, and they do a really good job of actually making it feel like the 90s. There are references to things from the 90s as well. So if you were a 90s kid, you'll connect potentially a little bit more with this film. But it's about this kind of film nerd who's all about making, you know, his own independent film on VHS. And he's just passionate about this. He wants to make this a thing. He has grandiose dreams of becoming a filmmaker at this very young age. I think he's probably like 15, 16 years old in the film, something like that. But he doesn't like blood. He is very afraid of blood. He actually gets very nauseous when that happens. So he doesn't like horror movies, and he has no intent in making horror movies. Well, he finds out that there's going to be this contest where he can end up having something to do with one of his favorite filmmakers, but it has to be a horror film, he finds out. Well, just so happens that in the beginning of this film, what ends up taking place is this meteor from space just shows up in his backyard, and it starts infecting people with a zombie-like state. So he ends up using that, and he's like, hey, here we go. I can start making a horror film right now, because what's more horror than what's going on around me at the moment? So that's as far as I'm going to go. This is a horror comedy, so it's very light, it's very fun. It's actually pretty over the top, but in a, you know, fun, enjoyable, charming, over-the-top way. The beginning of it definitely pulls you in. There's kind of this post-title scene that gives you a really good backstory on, you know, some of the stuff you're going to need to know about this meteor and how things happen with the meteor and the kind of like zombie state stuff that goes on. So does a really good job of getting your interest early, hooking you in, and being like, yeah, I'm down. Let's go for more of this. It has a very quirky score that really works with this type of film, keeping things very kind of upbeat. Like I said, quirky, lighthearted, fun. I will say that the score is a little bit, well, not a little bit. It's a decent amount over the top as far as how they crank it, and it just does become a little bit annoying at times. So I wasn't the biggest fan of the score, not the composition necessarily, because the composition worked really well for this film and what it is, but just how hard they go with it. So there is that. It takes place in the 90s, and they do a good job of making it feel like that. I already talked about that. The characters are interesting. One is mute. One hears his dead mother talking to him all the time and is afraid of blood. He's the main character. And there's another one, played by Mina Suvari, who is this over-the-top actress with a New York accent. It's very over-the-top. It's very ridiculous. But this is the thing. When you're doing over-the-top acting, it doesn't fit in something like, you know, a drama or a horror film necessarily, unless you're going for a so bad it's good. But with this one, when it's comedy, mainly comedy driven, you can do over the top and get away with it. It actually is beneficial for a lot of horror comedies to actually do over the top, because it's just way more acceptable. And you definitely get that with this film. Things are done harder. They go bigger with these performances, and it works. It's fine. CGI in this is pretty good. I was surprised with that, because it does strike as like a low budget independent film. Not too low budget, but definitely still a low budget independent film. But very nice CGI. I've seen worse CGI in like studio movies, so they did a nice job here. The acting is overstated, but it fits the feel of the film, like I was kind of talking about. The humor is decent. There wasn't anything that I laughed out loud about, but there were a few things that I was just like kind of in my head was just like, oh, that's kind of funny, or oh, that's kind of like a charming humorous. So the decent comedy, and like I said, a lot of it's kind of done over the top, done a little bit ridiculous, and that's where a lot of the comedy lies. Now it gets funnier when it comes to like zombie kills and stuff like that. So it's a little more like the splat stick that ends up going on, which I am a fan of. I do love splat stick horror, so enjoy those aspects. Character reactions are not realistic in this film. That's something you just need to know going into it. But it's a comedy primarily, so it's fine. Like that's one of those things where you're just like, oh, okay, well this is supposed to be funny, it's supposed to be ridiculous, over the top, kind of stupid. We're just gonna forgive that. I don't know if everyone's like that, but that's how I feel about horror comedies. There is some solid gore, and I will say this: you're not gonna see a ton of it early on, but once you start getting to the end of the film, when they're having their kind of grand finale, a lot more gore. The kills become a lot more fun. It definitely goes a lot bigger than I thought they were going to end up going with the ending. And the ending is legitimately a lot of fun. It feels like a very good payoff for what this film was. At times, it feels like it's starting to kind of stumble a little bit pacing wise, and you're like, are they going to get there? Are we going to feel like we're actually getting like a solid payoff for watching this film? Because it's an hour and 40 minutes long with credits, which is kind of long for a horror comedy in my opinion. But they get there, and it's a very nice payoff. And like I said, I didn't expect them to go as big as they did at the ending, and for it to be as interesting and exciting as it was in the ending. And some people may be hitting the feels a little bit. I could see that as well. The film has a lot of heart, and it's pretty fun. I mean, that's my main takeaway from this one. That's how I would kind of sell it for people. I'd say, this is a kind of low budget independent horror comedy zombie film that doesn't make you sick of zombies necessarily, which so many zombie films do make you sick of zombies. And it's just fun, it's light, it's a good time, there's some good humor to it, there's some ridiculous acting, there's some good gore, got that splat stick to it, just so many good elements to this film. But this takes an over-the-top horror comedy approach to love of filmmaking and that drive to succeed within filmmaking. And you can feel it. You could feel the love and the interest and the personal experiences that went into the script. So I do think overall this is a pretty good film. I do highly recommend it, especially since I haven't heard anything about it. Like no one's talking about it for the most part. Come on, people, let's do this. So out of 5 stars, half stars possible, I'm going to give it 3.5-star rating. That's a very good rating. So yeah, 3.5 stars. But if you've seen it at this point, go ahead and comment down below and let me know how you felt about it. I'm always looking for differing opinions. But do me a favor while you're here, subscribe to my channel. Please, if you feel like kicking in monetarily, you can definitely do that. I have a link in the description for memberships. You can see what you get monthly for a nominal fee there. You can also do super thanks. I have that enabled, so you can just kind of do a one-time donation if that's something you're into, even if it's like $1 or something. But don't do it if you feel like you're, not super financially secure. I don't want the money in that sense for sure. You can do a thumbs up on this video, and you can hit the notification bell button if you want to know when I'm putting up new videos, all that stuff. But thank you so much for taking your time to watch this. I do appreciate that a lot. And until next time, keep it brutal.